Outside the Box Reviews, there is no fate but what we make for ourselves. And today we're taking a look at the NECA Terminator 2 Ultimate Sarah Connor figure. This is a piece I have been looking forward to for quite a while. This is only the second Sarah Connor figure that's ever been made in this scale. Funko's done some in the Reaction line, and Hot Toys has one, which is still a freaking awesome figure that I have in my collection. But as far as this 7-inch scale, McFarlane's the only other company that's ever touched Sarah Connor. And NECA has given her the ultimate treatment, where McFarlane, which I do not have to do a comparison with, requires you to buy multiple variants to get Sarah Connor in several different looks. This NECA figure comes loaded with multiple head sculpts and a bunch of different weapons as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at Sarah. For accessories, we do get a good selection of weapons here, and I am completely ignorant when it comes to what weapons are, so forgive me. But Sarah has her little rifle here, which looks really cool. We have the rubberized strap we can put over her shoulder. It's really pliable, which I like a lot. Sculpting on here is overall really nice. You can see there's texture there on the grip, the magazine, all the little switches. We got the scope up there at the top. Just a really well detailed piece here. It's mostly a black plastic. There's a little bit of color variation, which I think is more to do with the plastic than it is to do with the paint on it. But we do get a little bit of silver back there, which is a great touch. I always prefer it when they kind of weather these up and make them look a little dirtier. And I think they could have gone a little further with this piece, but it still has a really good look to it, and I think they did a good job. We also get Sarah's handgun. Once again, great texture here on the handle, the grip. We have the silver rivets in there. We also have a lighter kind of gunmetal gray plastic in there. Just looks phenomenal, really well sculpted, very cool looking. And then last but not least, we get her shotgun, which is very cool as well. We get some brown areas here for the grip and for the pump on there, little bits of silver throughout. This one has a little more of a gunmetal mottled look to it. You can see there's like flecks of silver coming through the plastic. We do have the shells up here on the top. On the folding stock, the stock can kind of rotate backwards. Now, I'm not 100% sure, once again, don't know guns too well, but I would think that when this flipped backwards, this piece here at the end would also flip down to rest against your shoulder, so that doesn't actually happen here. And it does kind of come a little loose when you flip it back. You can see it pops off fairly easily. So for the most part, I think I'm just going to keep it flipped over the top here and display her like that and not really mess with this hinge feature too much. Now, the downside with the guns is they are normal guns, I guess, for this scale figure, and they're a little hard to fit into Sarah's hand. She definitely has a smaller, more feminine hand than most figures we get from NECA, and, well, she just has kind of a hard time reaching for the trigger and looking exactly like she's holding the weapon. Shotgun's a little big. The rifle kind of suffers the same problem as well, though it's a little better fit. However, I think the handgun fits really well, so that's a plus. Sarah also comes with her knife from the iconic No Fate scene. Really nice hunting knife here. The blade has a really good shape to it, has a little curve up there at the top, brown handle to it, and then we do have the kind of, I guess it would have been a leather strap in the movie maybe, coming off the back end of it. Looks really nice. And then Sarah does have a sheath here at the front, so you could take that knife and just slide it right in there for easy storage. And because I've kind of had to stretch her hand out to hold the guns, it's kind of a hard fit for it to go into her hand now. She kind of has a very loose grip on it, but still cool that you can make her hold it. For Sarah Connor, NECA has given us 3 unique head sculpts. So the first up is this one here. She's wearing her combat hat there at the top, which you can see has a great texture running through it. Just a black hat, but looks really good. We have her sunglasses on, and just kind of a neutral, pissed off expression on her face, but it looks very much like Linda Hamilton to me. I think they did a great job both in the sculpt and paint of this head. And then coming off the back here, we do have her ponytail, which is really nicely detailed. You can see there's different variations of browns there in the hair, giving it a lot of life. And it is a soft rubberized piece, so it will move out of the way, which is fantastic. Also, it's obviously different from the hair on her head. It's a separate piece kind of plugged in and glued in, but it looks phenomenal. It looks like it's all one piece, and it's really hard to see where the seam is. We also get this head without the hat or the glasses. I think this one looks great as well. We have her bangs kind of sweeping down in front of her face. Her eyes are really well painted underneath. Very similar facial expression, but once again, I like the facial expression they've given her. To me, it really just screams Sarah Connor. And the same idea here with the hair. A lot of great detail going going back through her head, and the same ponytail we got in the other version of the head. And then last but not least, we have the unponytailed version. So we have the bangs hanging down in front of her head, and then the long hair draping over her shoulders in front and going down the back of her head. Another really good head sculpt. Nothing obscuring her face really this time, so you get a really good look at the head sculpt underneath. And once again, I just think it's very, very well done. All this hair is rubberized, so it doesn't really hinder articulation tons, and I think it looks pretty good. Usually when companies do this split over the shoulder look, I think it can kind of have issues, but I feel like they've done a really good job in executing it here with this figure. Going further down the figure, we do have a lot of detail here with the vest over top of everything. It's a rubberized piece. I believe you probably could remove it if you really wanted to, but I'd be afraid to break it. I'm almost tempted to try to pick up another figure and remove this and do some customization to it, but it looks really good. It's got some great stitching detail throughout it. There's a matte black used for all the kind of fabric-y parts, and then you can see they go with a glossy black for all the buckles and things on it, which I think is really, really cool. Similar stuff going around here on the back. Just a phenomenally sculpted piece. You get the ties in there. Just everything just looks perfect on it. Underneath, she does have her kind of grayish tank top. Not a whole lot of detail going on, but it matches what it should. She's bare arms here, really good sculpted muscle detail in here. Sarah Connor is definitely a unique looking woman in Terminator 2, so they really captured the look of her here in this figure in a lot of little details. Of course, we already spoke about the hands, but we do have a trigger finger here on the right. And then on the left here, we do have her little bracelet on there, and then her open hand to kind of support the weapons or do whatever gesturing you want her to do. Here on the waist, we have her belt with all the little silver rivets in there. It's a rubberized piece that kind of floats there on her lower torso. You have the sheath we already talked about, some nice stitching detail and the rivet on there, and just more of those rivets going throughout the belt, looking really nice. In the back, we do have the standard, what I refer to as the NECA diaper, the soft rubberized piece that helps articulation in the lower torso. Pockets are sculpted in here, sticking out more than I've ever seen them have pockets stick out before. Even the side pockets are really poking out there, which I think is really cool. The stitching is all in there, looking really good. We got our cargo pockets going down her pants here in the front. More great stitching detail there. The wrinkles are on the knee, and everything kind of bunches up here above her combat boots. And they did this very similar to how they did the Rambo figure. We have all the ties going up her boot, and kind of a little high heel there with the boot. Some good stitching as well. And they gave it a slight gloss here on the boot. Not super glossy, but enough to make it look like it's a different material than the pants. And she does, of course, have peg holes at the bottom of her feet. Sarah Connor is loaded with articulation. We have a ball joint there at the base of the neck, and this is the head that would be most restrictive to movement. We can look decently up, decently down, and then we can move side to side. The rubberized hair really letting her move pretty freely. Then you could also tilt at the head. If I was to pop on a different head, you could see I can make her look up just a little bit more without the big bulky hair in the back, and also look down a little easier as well. But the range of motion, I think, is pretty darn good considering. Shoulders, pin socket, so we can go all the way around. We could also move out to the side a fair amount. We can bend and swivel at the elbow. The bend is a little lackluster. It only goes about 45 degrees. If I could ask for anything else on this figure, it would probably be double jointed elbows and knees, but it would probably be very hard on such a skinny body here. The hands are on ball joints, so they'll swivel as well as move in and out just a little bit. It's a kind of ball peg system NECA's used before, and it just leaves a little motion to be desired, but not horrible. Now, I believe she actually has two joints here in the torso. I think we actually have a upper torso movement up here, and then a ball joint there at the waist. I can't be 100% sure with this vest in the way, but I'm pretty sure we actually do get 2 points of articulation there. So she can lean really far back, really far forward, rotate side to side, as well as tilt around, which is really, really cool. Legs, pin socket joints, so you can go pretty far forward, pretty far back. Rotate the upper hip as well as go out to the side a decent amount. The knees bend, once again, only about 45 degrees. Double jointed knees would have been awesome just to have her be able to crouch down and look like she was aiming to take out Dyson or something. Then here at the foot, we do have a ball joint about midway down her boot, giving her a really good range of motion. She could swivel as well as tilt, but does kind of break up the sculpt a little bit, but that's not really a huge deal. For a size comparison, here's our Ultimate Sarah Connor next to our Ultimate T800, and I think the size difference is pretty decent. Not a huge one, but they look good together. I don't really remember if Linda Hamilton was quite this tall compared to Arnold, but I think it works here in figure form. I really wouldn't want Sarah to be too much smaller because I feel like she'd get pretty brittle if she was. Looking at this figure, I have really only one major legitimate complaint, and that's that she has a hard time holding her weapons. But in the same breath, that kind of comes with keeping everything in scale and keeping the weapons looking the way they should and keeping her proportions the way they should. So that's not really too much of a valid complaint. Same with me wanting double jointed knees and elbows. Might be hard on a figure this skinny to put those into the construction. I might be wrong, but it seems like it could cause issues in trying to get this molded and have it not have a lot of QC problems. But unlike some of the other figures NECA's done in this quote-unquote ultimate line, like the T800, like that Part 6 Jason, where I kind of questioned if that was really a ultimate figure. This freaking is. Now, it helps that we haven't had a Sarah Connor figure in many, many years, and that the McFarlane one was so expensive on the secondary market that it made it pretty cost prohibitive to actually ever get one and display it. It's probably gone down in price now, I'm guessing, with this thing out. But this is just a phenomenally executed figure. I think the sculpting looks fantastic. The paintwork is great. The articulation is overall really good. The accessories she comes with are cool. I've got no real complaints here. This figure gets an incredibly high recommendation. It's unfortunate that NECA's pretty much said there's very little chance of ever getting a John Connor, because I would definitely like to complete the little Terminator family here and have the three of them running around together. And I'm kind of hoping this isn't the end for them doing Sarah Connor. Now, I'm thinking a Pescadero version might not exactly be a high selling point for most people. But honestly, the thing I'd love would be to reuse this head sculpt and give her some new legs and make her the special edition version of the T1000 where her feet have fused into the floor, but beyond that, it looks like Sarah Connor. And I do think I might end up picking up at least one more of these figures, either to customize or just to have two different versions of Sarah on my shelf, just because there's so many options here. I could see me wanting to cycle through them quite often. We also do have an Ultimate T1000 coming out soon to look forward to, so that's going to be really cool, rounding out a trilogy of Ultimate Terminator figures. And then maybe we'll get some T1 stuff as well down the line. That would be really awesome as well. But in the meantime, this gets a high recommend. Make sure you follow me on Instagram, username Outside the Box Reviews. Also check me out on Facebook, link below. And until next time, this has been our Outside the Box Reviews. I'll be back.